My cherished viewer, you are still watching the Breakfast Show on Ghana Television, and we are set to serve you the first item on our plate this morning. Remember, the show is brought to you by Showed Acrylic Paints, the premium paint, Adonko, Next Level Energy Drink, Awake Purified Water, One for Life, and of course, Bed Borrow. You can see we have masked up. That is to tell you that COVID is still around. So please mask up wherever you are. As I indicated, we are continuing with our education on the mining sector, and this morning we are looking at the small-scale mining industry, particularly in relation to the National Consultative Dialogue that was held. My guest is already seated. I guess you would know him by now, Mr. Martin Ayisi. He is the acting CEO of the Minerals Commission. Sir, good morning.
Morning.
And I hope you're fine.
Yeah, very.
As usual, you're looking resplendent. My producer is asking how come we chose the same that I can't explain. Probably some telepathy working somewhere.
Okay. That's right.
You see now. But viewers would recall that sometime in April, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources organized a consultative dialogue to seek advice on the way forward as far as the mining sector is concerned, particularly the fight against Galamsey. That forum was, as a result, in fulfillment of President Akufo-Addo's vision of holding a national discourse, so as to come up with policies that will help us fight that menace. It's been 2 months. What has been happening? That's what we're going to find out from him and more right about now. So let's do a little background to that dialogue. What brought it about in the first place? What necessitated it?
Well, thank you, Vic, and viewers and listeners, thank you very much. Once again, we are here. We've come a long way as a nation. Let me start by saying that the small-scale mining sector, particularly gold, constitutes at least a third of the total production for gold and also for exports. So this is a sector that we cannot toy with or just joke with. But then we can also be oblivious to the fact that the way the mining is carried out has been irresponsible over the years. When we've tried all kinds of measures and put in place all kinds of mechanisms to deal with this canker. I will not say it has failed per se, but it did not work very well for a whole lot of reasons. So I think what the government did was to take a back stage and say, look, can we reset this whole conundrum? So essentially, I think the bottom line is that this is a national crisis. It's a national emergency. So as a nation, we all need to come together and have some kind of a concerted effort to deal with the problem. It's an issue that is just beyond the ministry or just a Minerals Commission as a regulator. So that was why the president called for the dialogue. We had the first one, the national one in April, which he himself was a guest speaker. Subsequently, we had one in Kumasi that brought together about 3 or 4 regions. So it's worked very well. As we discuss, I'll tell you some of the issues, the takeaways, and then what has happened, as you said, 2 months on.
Right. So
but by and large, it is basically to have a national consensus, broad-based, non-partisan, to address a problem that affects all of us.
Okay. So address the problem that affects all of us. What were the key objectives?
As I said, clearly we will need to reset the whole small-scale sector.
Okay. We
will need to change the regulatory framework, beef up inspection, really look at the policies again, and then chart a new path altogether.
Okay, so those were the
as
key
we discussed, we will go into the fine details, the takeaways, what came up, and then what has been going on for the last 2 months.
Okay, all right then. So we would go into the takeaways, but would you say that knowing the takeaways, would you say the dialogue met its objectives?
Yes.
It did?
Yes.
Okay, so now tell us about the takeaways.
I think the very first one is that small-scale mining has come to stay. It will be with us, perhaps until we run out of our gold resources. God knows when. The geologists will tell you that you actually don't get to know what you have until you finish mining. That we cannot tell. And you know our history. So then in that case, since it's a sector or something you cannot stop, then you have to do it responsibly. The first thing is that it has to be done and must be done responsibly. But fundamentally, I think the biggest takeaway is that there are some areas you cannot just go and work. What my sector minister has described as the red zones. So as a nation, we've all agreed that there are some areas, no-go areas. You cannot just go and work there. The first significant one is the water bodies. So under no circumstance will any person, individual, be allowed to go into any water body or within a certain buffer zone, the so-called 100 meters, to go and work. Either river, stream, creek, whatever you want to call it. No-go area. That's the first thing. And let me repeat, the last time I was telling you, the outrage, you know, from Ghanaians is when they see that water body, brown, so to speak, muddy.
Yeah.
That's what annoys them. And then you hear Ghana Water Company telling you that it is costing them more money to treat the same quantity of water than a few years ago. So that's the first thing. You can't be allowed to work in some areas.
Okay.
2, for now, all activities in the forest, prospecting and reconnaissance, also suspended.
As we speak now?
Yes, as we speak. You cannot, whether you have a license or it's a pending application, it's been suspended. That was a directive from the minister, and we came out with the list of those who have been granted licenses. This is for exploration. Activities have been suspended. And then he went further to issue a directive that the Minerals Commission and or Forestry Commission should not accept or process any application whatsoever in these areas. So that's the first most important thing. You cannot, work in these areas. That's number 1. 2, it is also clear that we will need to mine responsibly. So that calls for appropriate technology. As I speak to you now, the bulk of them, most of the miners use mercury. Mercury. And a very dangerous substance. And then I always start by telling you, the breakfast you took this morning, you don't know where the food is coming from. The doctors say these things go into the food chain. Now, we are a signatory to the Minamata. We as a nation, Ghana, we've signed the Minamata Convention, which says we should eliminate mercury. So one thing that came up is that we will need to change the way they do the mining. As to what we are doing or what has happened 2 months, or maybe we'll discuss it. But that's also another thing. It has to be done responsibly.
That came out.
And then the other thing too is that we have a lot of foreigners involved in the sector which is preserved for Ghanaians. So Ghanaians are saying that why are we seeing Chinese, why are we seeing Burkina-based, Nigerians, even Indians and Russians and people who are not Ghanaians involved in the sector? So we need to deal with that. So arrests are being made, people are being prosecuted, etc. So that's also one thing that we also need to.
So the dialogue said that no foreigner should be allowed.
Not even no foreigner. That is a law.
Okay.
The mining law of Ghana is that a foreigner cannot be allowed to engage in small-scale mining in any form or shape.
Okay.
Even provide support services.
So now it's going to be enforced, or it is being enforced?
We have to enforce that. And then most importantly too, I think we must also admit that the enforcement of the various legislations and the laws regarding small-scale mining have not been the best. So again, it comes back to Minerals Commission. We will need to also up our game. In other words, look, the other day I told you that if the definition of mining is anything to go by, practically we are mining all the 16 regions.
Yeah.
So what we are doing in the way of enforcement, we will discuss that.
Right.
But essentially, the main thing that Ghanaians also complain about is that we are not enforcing the laws very well. We don't see the inspectors around, or you don't come often, etc. What we are doing about that, we'll discuss it.
Okay.
So enforcement has not been the best. Foreigners getting involved, mining irresponsibly, that means just mining anywhere, and then not using the right technology. But the last thing I also want to add is also, perhaps maybe I'll rate that as number one, getting a place for the small-scale miners to work. Because it is not enough to say, don't go into the water body, or don't mine near the river. It's not enough to say, don't enter the forest. But also, these are people who want to mine. What are we doing for them? We will need to get a place for them, because they've been talking about that it's so difficult to get a place for them. 2 months on what we've done, I'll talk about that. And of course, it's not everybody who can mine. So what do you do for those who, cannot mine, or it's not everybody that can get a place to mine, but you need to find some kind of alternative level for them. So we'll discuss all those things. So in summary, 5 things.
Okay.
You can mine the water body, go into the forest. Enforcement of the laws have not been the best. And then also the use of appropriate technology, and then foreigners getting involved, and then getting areas for the small-scale miners to work. It is an issue.
Right.
So these were some of the issues that came up.
Okay. Fantastic takeaways, if you ask me. But Mr. Isi, this is not the first time, you even alluded to it earlier, that similar efforts have been made in the past, but they didn't really yield the desired results. What makes this one different?
This is different in several aspects or ways. Let's talk about one. Maybe let's start from the commission, the regulator. As I said, one of the things that put us on the spotlight is that we have not enforced the regulations and the laws. We have, the laws are there, the regulations are there, we've not done them very well. Essentially, we had 2 challenges. One, we were not everywhere, just few offices, and then we didn't have resources. But as I speak, we've been able to hire a lot of mining engineers. We have opened new offices. What does that mean? And then we are equipping them. What it simply means is that we'll basically, maybe within the next 1 year or so, we will practically be in every mining area, or in an area where small-scale mining takes place. For instance, until recently, we had the whole of Upper West. The northern frontiers are now becoming emerging areas for mining. It should be only in Upper West. That's a whole region. Today, as I speak, we set up an office in Tinga, a major small-scale hub. An area in Boli. We are going to add more offices. So that it is now easier. You don't need the officer to come from Wa and then come and do inspections or check on mining activities in Tinga or Boli. Now there are officers there. Fantastic. We're going to equip them, provide vehicles for them. We fund the resources.
Fantastic.
So what we are telling Ghanaians is that give us some time. Because you don't set up offices overnight. The engineers are there. We've hired a lot of them. So within the next 6 months or so, when I come here, I'll be telling you a different story. I'm not saying the problem will be solved overnight, or I'll give you 100% solution. But at least you see some improvement. That you now have an officer on the ground, there's an office in Boli. That's one. Then the other thing is this. We are also saying that when it comes to the security aspects of small-scale mining, because these days the miners are armed with sophisticated weapons. And the decision of the government is that the security aspects, the regional ministers should take in charge. That means the Regional Security Council. RESEC is under the regional minister. So they will be dealing with that. So the job of the Minerals Commission, when they go around, or if they pick up the hotspots, is to just relate this information to the Regional Security Council, and then they deal with the security aspects.
But why has it become necessary for the miners to wield those sophisticated weapons you talk about?
Well,
what happened?
Well, if you watch the videos, you see that the Chinese are now carrying guns. Even some of the Ghanaians, for various reasons, maybe to resist security officials or maybe ordinary citizens or people who may come after them. We also hear it's also to prevent them from being robbed of their gold. So these are some of the reasons. But until recently, we never had anything like that. So that is in terms of security.
Right.
Now, there's something I also want to add. When it comes to the issue of mining responsibly and then mine support services, you see, there have been some gaps over the years, and that's how come the Chinese and the foreigners fill the vacuum. You give a small-scale miner a license, then it's like he's left on his own. He has no resources. The large-scale people are able to raise money on the stock exchange or go for loans. Now, you are saying he shouldn't use mercury, which maximum gives him about 35% recovery. The only way he can do this responsibly is to get this modern equipment. We're talking about something a little over $100,000 US. Now, clearly, this is an equipment or machinery a small-scale miner cannot afford. And then I always draw this analogy that perhaps one of the most ambitious policies or program of this government, I mean, since independence, is this 1D, 1F, apart from these three HSS. If you look at the 1D, 1F, it is basically to create incentives for companies to set up and then build factories. Then you can employ people, and then we can change the economy.
Right.
So then the question is, the small-scale miner goes to the Chinese and then gets money from him to buy an equipment, or the Chinese will say, look, I can do this and take this money, and then we share. If you provide the equipment for the small-scale miner, they are not saying they will not pay. If you can give it to them for them to work and pay, then effectively you are cutting out the Chinese. And as I'm saying, you are asking, what have we done in the next 2 months? That's what Ghanaians are interested in. We have brought some machines now. You know, and then we have also placed orders for more, about 100 plus. Now, these machines don't use mercury. It's able to crush, mill, recover 90% plus gold. Then we are also told that it's also able to trap the mercury. So they
It's going to trap the mercury.
Yes, so they recover more. So 90% plus as against the 35% mercury.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, essentially you are stopping the use of mercury, and then you are honoring or respecting Ghana's commitment to the Minamata Convention, which says you do away with mercury.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you save the environment. And then you and I don't get to consume cassava or plantain from some of these infested areas. The ones that have been brought in, we are making arrangements to get them distributed all over the country. And between now and end of the year, we intend to bring close to 100 and distribute them to the various cooperatives, companies that are being formed, so we can monitor them. These are equipment you cannot mount in the river. Okay, then we'll be able to identify them, monitor them, and then they can also pay taxes. These things are happening now, so that is the difference. Then another thing 2 months on that we've done is this. We're also trying to get...
Even before you move on, there is a video that the producer would show about this machine. This machine
that I'm talking about, yes.
Yes. So if Mr. Producer, if that video is ready, can we see it so that viewers can also have, you know, a fair idea of what we are discussing? I'm sure when it's ready, he will put it on the screen for us in a little while. So you may continue.
Yes, actually we displayed it at the dialogue.
Yeah. And
we've taken it everywhere. Let me also say that this machine is being provided by a Ghanaian who has been registered to provide support services, not a Chinese.
Wow.
Providing support services is done by a Ghanaian. You know, it's reserved for Ghanaians. Okay. So we asked the gentleman, take the machine and go all over Ghana. Ensure our district officers are there. You do the trials for us to see the results before we okay it. Because in the past, all kinds of things have been tossed around.
Right.
So they've gone through the trials and they are very, you know, efficient. So we have taken it upon ourselves to bring it and give it to the small-scale miners.
Okay.
So if we're going to give you a machine that costs 100,000 to about 2,000 or 100 or 50 people to work, do you need a Chinese?
No.
So we are not only going to arrest them and put them in jail, that's the security aspect, but also we are filling that gap that allowed them to come
in.
These are happening.
Okay.
Now the other thing for us, the main issue is where can you get them to work? If you look at the data, we have at Minerals Commission, apart from a little over 1,000 or so that have licenses issued to them, in other words, they can work in those areas provided they have the other approvals, like EPA and the digging permits. By and large, most of them work in areas that belong to other people's concession, either a large mining company, mining lease, or maybe a prospecting area. Outside this, then they are working in areas that legally will not even permit you, like in a water body or entering the forest.
The forest.
So what are we doing in that direction? Because they've been complaining. Now, we've been able to block some areas that we took from the large-scale companies and designate them as small-scale block-out areas.
Oh, okay.
But two things are happening. One, we will need to do some investigation to be sure that there is gold, in those areas. Other than that, you might designate a place as a block-out area,
and then
you take them there, and then after 2-3 months, there's nothing here, and then they go back to the old ways. So in the medium to long term, we find some resources. We'll give it to Geological Survey Authority to do the investigation. Now, there are some areas too that the mining companies have given to us, which already have some mineralization. We parceled it out for the small-scale miners. And let me also praise the large-scale companies. They are doing very well. They've been partnering us very well. Take Obuasi, for example. They've given us a huge block, about 60 square kilometers. And most of those areas have been given to the small-scale miners. Hitherto, all these guys were working illegally there. What we have to do now is to ensure that they work properly, and then we give them this machine, and then they work according to the laws and regulations. So we are working on that. Within this July, so many areas will be launched for small-scale mining. The list has been done. We've done the inspections. The place has been found suitable. These are areas that were given to us by the large-scale companies. Some areas that they relinquish as required by law, and some areas that somehow we went through our cadastre and realized that the place was free.
Available.
Yeah, so we found about 30-40 areas.
Okay.
We've done the inspection. We are consulting the chiefs, talking to the community and the miners, and then you see us launching some of these areas a lot in July.
Okay.
So something is happening.
So about how many are we talking about?
There are several of them. You see, the number of concessions depends on the block size.
No, I'm talking about the miners, the small-scale miners. About how many? Do you have the statistics of how many?
The ones that we identify for now, or we are talking about small-scale miners generally in the country.
Okay.
If it's a number of small-scale miners, you're talking about 1 million.
Okay.
1 million Ghanaians involved in small-scale mining. For instance, there's an area we are going to launch somewhere in Ashanti this July. It's going to take care of about 2,000 people.
Okay.
Let me just explain this employment thing. You're not just talking about the 50 or 100 small-scale miners that will be working in that area under the supervision of the Inspection Division and EPA. But you see, that lady that gets up in the morning and then mounts a food joint. The miners go out there, they go and work. They'll be doing break, they run shifts. And then they come and buy food from her. Banku, Kenki, or whatever. At the end of the day, she goes home with about some 50 Ghana or 100 Ghana. That's some kind of support service for her. She is gainfully employed.
Right.
So it means that insofar as those miners continue to work, she has something to do.
Okay.
So and then that's not the only thing. Remember, she may not be a farmer herself. She has to go to some Auntie Maggie somewhere
to buy the food.
So Auntie Maggie is also assured that somebody will be buying the cassava or plantain. So it's a whole chain.
The chain is quite traceable.
Yeah, so you might be employing 50 or 100 small-scale miners directly, but indirectly you're talking about 1,000 or 500 jobs, providing all kinds of services for that local community.
Right. That's very true. I am told the video is ready now, so we can go see it. There's also a video of how some water bodies have we need to let our people see this. Those who have not seen how our water bodies have been destroyed, there's a video coming up now.
Well, I'm not opposed to that, but then we keep harping on the negative. It is because we are talking about small scale mining, and I'll be coming to the Galamsey because if the Galamsey activities were not there, probably this conversation would not be happening
within the context that it is happening. So we'll take a look at that in a moment when that is ready. But yes, I think it's about rolling out. Okay, so Mr. Isi, could you tell us what we are seeing?
So that is the name of the company. So you see, it's called Commodity Monitor, registered under the laws of Ghana by Minerals Commission. That's the owner is a Ghanaian.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that, or hitherto, this will be provided by the Chinese.
Okay.
So if you want to take the Chinese, you need something like this. Now this is a trial going that occurred in a small scale in license site somewhere along the Winneba area there.
Okay.
So they went for the trial, and then this is hard rock.
Okay.
It's not near a river, it's not in the water body, etc. So that's a machine. And then they will just have to crush the rock, put it inside, and then it will just, what do you call it, mill it.
As we can see.
Yes, and then it will process it.
Okay.
I don't know whether we could hear the person talking.
Because of time, let's do with your explanation.
So essentially, that is it. So these are the machines that they are in now. Okay. We are bringing more.
I'm told we can pick the audio. Just hold on for me a little, Mr. Isi.
So far, but the Bible, it me a human tem, and it me no load the baby, it me go to a brain in some mercury.
But South say be any ska because Mama inform work is baby and find here a Jumano. And here there one sounds one board, smooth board now when you're washing. Being to send that do me couldn't answer when I cry me out, I didn't consume. We need an actually na very and a crush and pony baby I have because crush and any stone bed but to question with the young age perfect.
At the same time, send your dust air higher, Okotapa, Ogosoni Pistia, a Panya, dust a cool boys. And I'm says how machine, and you shoot you. You see, you mean, and you see a gusso, you went in produce dust to be
it's affordable in terms of the technology benefits that is existing, right? You're able to triple your gold recovery. So let's say in a day you are earning $5,000, right? And you get this machine. In a day you are earning $15,000.
Yeah, when I am fast, do into the buyer. Yeah, when send a young or two money, Papa, a young gun. I'm a small scale mining. Welcome. I mean, send your humanity in your blend. And you do we are better from say, if I'm 1 million, the 2 animals and free. Small scale money, human because a bread.
So with this machine, you are sure that for the next 3 years, all that you have to do is to change your harness. You are done, for the rock. And then we offer rock machines and alluvial machines, and they are all mercury free. And that's what we want to do because we are all at risk, whether you live in the capital Accra or elsewhere. The food on your plate will definitely be in the chain where mercury has contaminated. The small-scale mining sector has a big potential. Let's say small-scale mining sector alone is contributing 40% of Ghana's gold. And most importantly is to make sure that miners operate based on sustainability levels. So you don't destroy water. There's no way you can mount this machine on a river. And that's not what we encourage. Set them up on a dedicated jurisdiction, put these machines there, get them all, and the youth will be working. And that will create a very vital economic value chain for them.
To bring out the gold.
Yes, so that is it.
Please stand by. All right, so can you, it is very fascinating, Mr. AEC, to learn that this particular intervention of this machine is one of the fallouts from the dialogue that we are talking about. Isn't that right?
Yes, so we are walking the talk. Now if you take the northern frontiers, for example, Upper West, Upper East, and some parts of the northern region, particularly in the northern part, it's mainly hard rock.
Okay.
This is a hard rock machine. Now we really have the one for alluvia, and then we have the one that has both alluvia and hard rock. Because sometimes you can have the weathered material on top, you can use that one, and after that you get to the hard rock. Now what I'm saying is that we are bringing more of these machines. We're going to give it to the various cooperative societies or the companies. we'll distribute them to them, have some kind of memorandum of understanding with them, and then, like we talk about this taxi driver thing, they work and pay.
Yeah.
You know, in a flexible manner. They're happy. A few of them even wanted to pay up front, but if you want to do that, we are looking at numbers.
Right.
So we'll be seeing a whole lot of these things. Now, in the next 6 months or by the close of the year, if you have them all over the place, effectively you have taken out the Chinese.
Right.
Because these are the kind of things they've been providing. They don't even bring this, they bring the so-called champagne and mount them on the water body. This one you cannot mount them in the water body.
Right.
Okay? So this is to address those gaps that allow the Chinese to come in. That's one. And then they'll recover more. Then of course, the almighty mercury thing will be a thing of the past gradually. So I sincerely believe that in the next 1 year, we'll be singing a different song.
Okay.
By now. So at least something is happening.
Yes.
Nowhere did we promise that we'll deal with that, I'm saying overnight.
Okay.
The minister didn't say that, Ministers Commission didn't say that, but at least.
You see, there's something rolling on our screen.
Oh boy.
Would you be able to explain to us what these?
Well, these are, as far as I'm concerned, these are illegal operations, most likely in the forest area. And you can see the land degraded, pits all over. Maybe probably what do you call it? The course of the rivers have been, or the water body have been diverted. What are the implications of things like this? One, if they are close to settlements or near farms, people may fall in. We've heard cases of people dying.
Falling in a
and dying.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, clearly these may be breeding grounds for mosquitoes.
So please hold on for me. The white areas. What are those?
Oh, I'm sure it's just a water body that I've collected.
In the pits that have been left.
Yes.
By illegal
so
miners.
people fall in them. They become breeding grounds for reptiles.
There are so many, eh?
Yes, reptiles and what do we call it? Other dangerous animals. And of course, you have mercury all over the place. Now, what Ghanaians want to know is that this has already happened. Are you going to leave them like that? We are saying no. So we have to reclaim these things.
It's a vast size of land,
yes. So they will have to be reclaimed.
All these destroyed.
Yes. So we are designing a program to get all these things reclaimed. There are some areas you can just backfill, especially where we have sun waning, etc.
We are still rolling, oh.
Yes, I know. So the hands of dialogue is a national crisis.
So you see, your outfit is supposed to provide inspection and all of those things. How come these were not noticed?
Well, two things.
This is really a large acre of land.
Well, let me tell you this.
Hey.
The causes of galamsey are very complex, and it's not as ordinary as you see it.
Okay.
I'll be the first to admit that inspection have not been the best. Reason because we've not been everywhere.
Yes.
And we didn't have resources. Now, I'm saying that's no longer the case now. Offices are coming up. We're hiring engineers. So as much as possible, you see our footprints now. That's one. Two, some of these things are done by, in fact, the whole community. You can go to some community and they'll tell you it's our land. We'll do it anyway. If there are instances, but I'm not making excuses.
No,
because I've already admitted that inspection has not been the best. Reasons, lack of resources and personnel. Now that's not the issue. We have the resources now. We have hired people. That's one. Two, you can go to some places where you see a chief, they'll just give their land to people. Or even some farmers, they'll just give their land out.
It is still rolling.
Yes, and then let me ask you this, or let me put it this way.
Yes, please.
The inspector gets up, goes round, and then he sees, look, the district officer or inspector is able to know whether you have license or not. Because you see, the applications are done at the district level, and he did the inspection. So he's able to tell that this site is illegal right from the word go. Sometimes they get calls from people from the community, elders. Sometimes they are called by the district assembly. They are called by other people and say, look, we've seen some people entering the forest or going to do this illegally. Come around. Now the inspector takes his car, which now he has, resource, goes to the site and meets 200 people, some of them carrying arms. What can he do?
What can he do?
The only thing he can do is to come back now, pick the GPS location and all those things, pass all the information to the security agencies, and then they will just take them out. That is it. That's it. But if you go, sometimes you go to an area, there are about 4, 5, 10 people there. You have to look at it. Even the national security or the police and the army, sometimes when they are going to make arrests, I'm not a security person, I'm not pretending to be one, but they will tell you that when they go, sometimes they look at the situation. They're just going to pick one person, 3 policemen, and you have about 200 people in the community preventing arrest. You cannot do that. They may have to call for reinforcement or go back and re-strategize or something. Okay? So you go to an area, you might find 10 people or 20 people working. You see the officer, you walk to them, interact with them and say, look, you cannot do this thing. Come to the office and let's get you a place to work. In most cases, it works very well.
Right.
There are instances where we go and see them once a place is free and it's a place that they can work. As far as the law is concerned, we allow them. Look, we have permitted so many areas that were illegal sites. But then, where he takes his champagne and all those things with the Chinese and goes into the water body, these are areas you cannot even license for him.
Okay.
Then he's deep somewhere in the water body there. We only get to know because we are alerted by the community, or maybe the DC or somebody tells us. Look, even this operation halt, the reports we are getting, if you listen to the press conference by the Minister for Defense, they didn't resort to working differently than that. That's how cars stop when they are. So they go there 12 a.m. By 3 a.m. they finish.
They are done. And
then you go there in the morning and then you think that nothing is happening, but they are working. But of course, the military people, they know their work very well. They are on top of matters, and then they are also strategizing to make sure that, look, it's around the clock operation.
Well, it's all too soon, our time is up.
Yes.
All too soon, we have less than 3 minutes to wrap up this discussion. We may continue with the areas that we are not able to cover next week and then move on. Let me just take your concluding remarks and then we'll continue with the rest of the areas next week.
So I just have 5 things to say. One, this is a national crisis. You've seen it. Everybody should be concerned. 30 million Ghanaians should be concerned. Don't sit somewhere and say that, oh, it's the work of the Minerals Commission or EP or the Ministry of Mining or Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, so you don't care. You don't know where your food is coming from. So just report any galamsey or illegal activities. We're going to publish the licenses. We're going to put our contacts there and put everything on our website. Rush to our district offices. Tell them that, look, you found all these things. So everybody, in a way, must bring it to our attention. It's just like GBC the other day talked about this condition of Dokor Road. And then, was it a week or 2? I've seen it being fixed. It's the same thing here. I mean, clearly, I don't know how to describe this thing. But we'll have to fix it. We'll have to reclaim. And then, it's not a matter of just reclaiming. If you don't deal with the fundamental issues, helping them to mine responsibly with proper technology, getting them a place to work, and assisting the miners, 10 to 3 years to come, we'll come back to this. So we are working in tandem. Okay, but as for the water bodies, the forests, don't go there. Please. Don't go
You can say for sure that as we speak now, nobody is there?
Yes.
You can say for sure.
No, what I can tell you is that since the military, the security operations began to take people from the water bodies and the forest, I don't think what the situation, I mean, what they came to, meet and what we have now is the same. I don't have the figures, I don't have the facts. The briefings are done by the security agencies, but at least I'm aware that, even before anything, people have taken off.
All right.
There may be 1 or 2 people who will still be hiding there and doing.
That is what I'm thinking. That is what I'm thinking.
Yes, but we just have to sustain the fight. Yes, and then find some place for them to work, and then provide alternative livelihood for them. Okay. But if you flash and you don't deal with getting a place for them to work or giving them alternative livelihoods, to live on, you will be back to square one.
Right. So you have to leave it here.
No problem.
Thank you for coming. We'll continue next week by the grace of God and look into whether or not influential people who are alleged to be behind it can be dealt with.